A little late to the game, but we're going to play a little bit for a while, doing some NPC token assets for the Light of Xaryxis adventure, part of Spelljammer's Adventures in Space. We've created a translation for a conversion for that adventure using the Spelljammer Combat and Exploration mechanics that we've been streaming here online for the past 5-6 months. So give me a second here to hit my signal and just make sure everything's coming through clean, and for me to do shout out stuff on Twitter and stuff, and then we'll get into this for an hour or so. Then we'll create role-playing game supplement PDFs. I focus my attention currently on 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. There is a slew of books that I've created previously that you can take a look at just to get a feel for the kind of work that I create. There's a bunch of links down below. If you click on any of those, they'll take you to the different books that I've created. They're all 100% free preview. There's probably about 150 illustrations across the lot of them that I have posted there. So if you're on a mobile phone, if you click into any of the there we go. If you click into any of the book descriptions there, if you're on a mobile phone, it'll take you to. You'll see an eye icon on the right-hand side of the screen. If you are on a desktop or a tablet, if you underneath the image of the cover, it'll say full preview. So if you click on the full preview or the eye icon, in either case, it'll open up a PDF. It'll be 100% preview. You can read everything cover to cover. If you're an art enthusiast, be welcome to take a look at the work that I've produced there. If you're a D&D enthusiast, then be welcome to check out the mechanics there. If there's anything that I've produced here that is of value to you, consider purchasing it. Otherwise, run the 20 level campaign and see if it susses out for you. But this book and the other books that we're working will also be 100% preview. So check out what you want, stick around, and I'll give a shout out when the thing's actually published. But that's it for my spiel, so I'm going to rearrange my windows real quick, ask for you to like, subscribe, hit the bell, and help push me to 1,000 subscribers and give some of the content to watch so I can get over 4,000 hours of consumed content. That way I can monetize, and whenever I show up to stream, I get paid to paint, which is everybody's dream. So I created this cover back around, I think, episode 15 or so. You can check out the Spelljammer Combat and Exploration playlist that I have here on my channel for this and other work, including the previous work we've done on tokens. So we're going to continue work on tokens. It looks like I've got just a little bit more work to do here before I can be happy enough to move along. So so we're going to continue that for a bit, and then we're going to move on to somebody else. Hey, ready to go? It's good to see you, my man. Yeah, you got here early in the stream. Well done. Probably because I started late. So that worked out. That worked out super well, man. Let's see. That's a square. I've been having a lot of design frustrations with how I'm wording the scaling mechanics for the vehicles. I think I'm like in my 5th iteration of it right now, and it's just absolutely frustrating. But I think I'm finding a solution that I am content with. So God's willing, I'll be able to get that resolved and start moving on to the rest of the document, because I've literally been choking on these 4 pages for the past like 10 days, and it is just absolutely brutal to my work cycle right now. And it's just an unexpected complication that is a reality part of when you're building stuff. You don't necessarily know exactly how everything is supposed to turn out, so you do your best with the writing, and then when you start putting the other assets together with it, sometimes it just doesn't quite mesh, and you got to start trying to create new solutions. So that's where I'm at right now. It's super frustrating. But I know there's a solution, because I can explain it easily enough in just a casual conversation. It's just breaking it down, so it's like it's a procedure. It's the procedure of implementing multiple scales of combat on maps at the same time, since there's no real there's no real framework to, like, there's no references for me to work off of as to, like, how am I supposed to explain this stuff. I'm kind of having to make it up as I go along. So it's proving to be a pretty significant challenge. But like I said, I'm starting to parse it out and break it down, and I think I'm hoping by Saturday it's going to be resolved, so that I can start moving on to the rest of the document. The rest of it is going to run really smoothly in comparison to this. After already chewing through everything, the only issues I'll have is fitting things, like the wording for everything else is good. It's just how well is it going to fit on a page, and that honestly is, knock on wood, but pretty easy in comparison to like this current design challenge. This is probably the most difficult piece of the document, and I'm honestly glad that it's up front like this, that I had to run into it so early on so that I wouldn't get deep into the process and realize something's like really screwed up and then have to like restructure a bunch of stuff afterwards as a result of it. So it's good that I got stung early on. I hate getting stung, but when I do, I certainly appreciate it being early on. So I'm hiding inside of tokens. Let's make some tokens so I don't bash my brain against the keyboard. And so we can keep on keeping on with at least something productive today. So that is my my admission of mortality, that I don't know how everything is supposed to be done, that I'm guessing just like everyone else is. But I think the treasure hidden here is that I believe in the work, and therefore there will eventually be a solution, and I am confident that the solution that will be found is going to be the best one possible. So pray for me, brethren. I hope that this thing turns out a-okay. Man, I feel pretty fearless about this character now, though. I was sweating this the other day, right? Now I'm just kind of kicking on through it. It's like, I got this. I do got this. I think I can... take this arm in a touch. Nice. Cool. I am really happy with how this is turning out now. Merge down. Like that. Here we go. My upstairs neighbors are increasingly arguing with each other. I predict some marriage counseling for them in the future. I wish them the best. I recognize their rage, though. So I don't begrudge their noise. If anything, I just feel bad they have to go through it. I got 4 fillings in my back teeth today at the dentist. That's why I didn't have martial powers Monday. I was getting drilled on, and that turned out a-okay. So, cheers to that. Got some great dental. I got a great dentist team up here. They replaced all my front grill. They're gonna do my bottom rack eventually. But in the meantime, great folks. I'm in Everett, Washington. It's just north of Seattle. So, I mean, you know, if you ever need any emergency dental work and you're in town, let me know. I will point you their way. There we go. Very much looking forward to Martial Powers tomorrow. That is going to be super fun. Continuing work on building out the 4E, the 4th edition creature rolls. I'll do that. I think I'll be doing that in probably about 15 hours. I reckon. Maybe 16, like I'll probably make it noon here in Seattle. That's 16 hours from now. That's a good block. Spend an hour or so on that with you guys tomorrow. That book is going to be badass when we get to it. I am very, very much looking forward to having that published. So what do you got going on that face of yours, buddy? Yeah, I don't think so. Let's find our center line. Here. I saw the Dungeons and Dragons movie over the weekend. I loved it. It was very funny. It was very good. I think my favorite, aside from the fat dragon and God, what else was making us laugh out loud? It couldn't have been that funny if I can't think of it. Fuck all. Anyway, yeah, Fat Dragon was by far the funniest part, and a part that didn't make me laugh, but I enjoyed a lot, was how at every character at some point was able just to stare like off into the distance and just recite their character's background, which is like obviously on the back of their character sheet. That was great. Like they started to soliloquy. And it's like you guys are monologuing your backgrounds at us. That's great. That was very, very amusing. Didn't make me laugh out loud. I just thought it was a funny little perk. Oh yeah, and them interrogating the dwarven warriors. That was a very, very funny part. That was the other thing I was trying to think of. I liked that a lot. So I recommend it. I recommend it in the theater. I will watch it again when it's out on video. I will buy it wherever. Go. A lot of choppiness going on inside of there, but it's because I'm choppy. There. Just knocking this down. All I can think about is that Eberron map. It's always such a like I never know what exactly it is I'm going to stream when I jump on stream, because I got more than one project going. And I was really, really close to doing more Eberron tonight, but I wanted to log in some Spelljammer time just to stay inside that energy, so that I can, when I finish stream, I could go back to working on the map scaling mechanics, just to stay inside this energy to be able to pick that up. But it was sore temptation. I really am enjoying the progress that we're making on that. I'm gonna have to find a photo reference for that finger eventually, but for now I think it's okay. Like I said, we'll come back to that. I'm gonna find a photo reference someplace and steal a pose from a photo. If I have to, I'll do it myself. The biggest challenge to having a hiccup in production is imposter syndrome. When it's not easy, after it's already been so difficult to produce something, and a ridiculous amount of effort is invested into making sure that the idea works. Running into hiccups that prevent you from being able to properly visualize what it is that you're trying to do is a risk. It is a high risk. Doubting yourself puts you into a weird spiral that can be difficult to get out of if you haven't experienced them before. And honestly, I find the biggest solution to imposter syndrome is just acknowledging that you're there because it's your project, and that the reason it doesn't exist yet is because it was meant for you to build, and that you should have confidence that you're at the right place at the right time doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing because it's exciting to you, and that the challenge of the work and the just that it's not being handed to you easily is good indication that it's good for you to be working on it, to help you evolve, to be able to get rid of things like frustration and doubt at all. So the sensation that you feel is the process of cleansing that emotion in the first place. Like, if you didn't feel doubt, the only reason you feel doubt is because you're purging doubt from your soul. If you feel fear, it's because you're becoming more comfortable with fear as an ally in your heart. If you feel anger, it's because you're having an opportunity to learn how to express that anger without having to hurt others in the process. So the fact that we feel negative emotions isn't a failure at all. It's a sense of gain, that we're becoming better people for ourselves, that we're getting more in touch with ourselves because we're willing to endure negative emotions that we don't want to feel. If we were living an easy life, then we wouldn't have any frustrations. If we weren't here to evolve and become stronger, then we wouldn't have any struggles, and it would just be a spa resort vacation until we pass away in our sleep. But for all of us that have ran the game a number of times and understand deep down how it works, we play hardcore mode and don't run away from the feelings that affect the human condition. We integrate them and heal them and make them feel belonged, instead of running away from them or shoving them down into a dark hole in our soul where they can't get any oxygen and slowly fester into a monster. And it's being brave enough to embrace that panic or that doubt or that self-loathing or shame. Also kind of falls in with addiction, where you don't feel like you're in control of yourself. The experience of being out of control and being chemically fixated on something external from you is just an opportunity for you to feel how complete your body truly is of itself when you have the opportunity to peel out of that chemical curse that you're enduring. That doesn't mean you'll ever be free of it. There's no guarantees of release. It's your ride. And if it is to be a nightmare of uncontrollable events, there's nothing you can do to stop the ride once it starts. So the job isn't to get rid of the emotion or to defeat the emotion. It's to make peace with it. It's to welcome it and integrate it into your heart so that it can become a part of who you are. There's power in understanding fear and anger. It's strong to be able to see a conflict between two people and understand where both of them are coming from, so that you don't have to walk out of that scenario feeling having to judge them for anything. To recognize that people are where they're at, and when you've been around for a while playing the game, you start to recognize, I know where you're at in the puzzle on the map. And it's not your job to deprive them the opportunity of discovering the secret door, as it were, the hidden latch that opens up the answers to them. But we can understand where they're coming from and not pass judgment on people as we see them going through the same struggles that we go through ourselves. That's, I think, probably the coolest part about having horrible experiences in your life. It's just how much of a bedrock you can, how you can be an anchor for people around you. And that's what I'm currently training on, is because I can feel the emotions easily enough, but it's difficult for me to separate them from my own feelings because they wash through me and then they mingle in with what resonates, what relates, what can I relate to this emotion? If I feel anger, this is how that process goes. I now feel angry. So the first thing that you feel is it's going to be an emotion. Emotions are a higher degree of reality than our thinking. So the first thing we're going to feel is an emotion. And then we're going to then start thinking and assign a reason for why we are angry. And the actual answer is we're feeling angry, like in this instance, we're feeling anger because in this instance, we're feeling anger. It's as trite as that. It's just this is what's on your docket. Right now, the roller coaster has a curly Q, and that curly Q feels like anger. So you're going through a curly Q, and it makes your body sense anger, and then it backlogs into, well, my body is feeling this sensation, so it must mean there's something happening to be angry about. And then your ego takes stock of the situation that they're around, and if there's something that they can observe that they can queue up as being angry about, then all of a sudden you're angry at whatever it is that you're observing, whether you would have been initially or not. If there's nothing in your immediate surroundings that you can blame anger for or that you can be angry about, then you have to start diving inward. What happened to me today that I'm now going to start thinking about, so that as I feel those anger emotions occurring, I can relate it to this feeling that I am remembering. It's like, oh, I must still be angry about blank. Like, no, that was just the most convenient thing for your ego to reach out and find that it could be angry about, whether it was actually angry about it or not. Well, I'm angry now, so we may as well do something constructive for it, our ego will say. And so we begin getting angry at things that we weren't even thinking about a moment ago. It's just, we need something to think about right now because we don't know how to process this anger. But if instead you get to a point where it's like, oh, this is anger, it has nothing to do with me, it's just a process, then you don't actually have to find a reason why you're angry. And then you don't have to actually get angry at anything. And that's pretty fun. Ugh, God, that hand is horrible. But it's good enough for now. I can safely ignore it for the moment because I don't want to spend too much time. I'm already... Oh, did I even set a timer? No. No timer set here. It's almost 8 o'clock. Let's put 20 minutes on the block. How long are we going? 30 minutes so far? $20 minutes on the block. I've got my heating pad. It actually does a pretty good job. I bought a an electronic heating pad recently that I can put my, well, it's tea tonight, but typically coffee in the morning. It works. It's a good piece of machinery. Some casual gear on this guy. I'm gonna have to do some work on this hand too. There we go. How much of a challenge this was giving us on Friday? Absolutely thrilled to be here right now. This is why I'm confident that I'm going to figure those pages out. It might not be as quickly as I want to, but it will be figured out. Just like this was such a problem for me last week, all of a sudden it's just a joy to work on. Because I had the chance to step back from it, take a look at it, see where it's at accurately, and be able to hammer away at it properly, like we're doing right now. Proper hammering over time. That's the key. Flare. There. Better than ever and ever before. There. One. Captain. Oh, that's right. What I needed to do was go in here and take. Hey, thanks for the likes, guys. I appreciate that. Thank you. Likes and subscriptions. That's the best way to make the spice flow. You know. Let's go to D&D Beyond. Let's find that picture again, so we can see what's on that face plate a little bit closer, and then we'll step away from it and move on to the next piece. Boo menagerie. Let's go down, find some elves. Astral elves, that makes no sense. Whatever. Commander. Oof, that's a lot of complicated filigree. Womp, womp, womp. Epic pirate theme for the win. Easy. This is just like duplicating Wayne Reynolds' work for Pathfinder, except this is less complicated. Wayne Reynolds is by far the master of filigree. Like, he has so much knick-knack going on in like every single character illustration that he does. It is a bit insane. So this is relatively easy in comparison. Like, if you ever want to do something and you find yourself intimidated by how difficult it is, go find something more difficult to do and figure out how to do that instead. That way, when you come back to the thing that you actually wanted to do, it's not going to seem like nearly as big of a deal. Not bad. There we go. Marshall Cox, hey, just joined. What you working on? Hey, hi, welcome to the mix. I've been building a book for a new conversion for Spelljammer Combat and Exploration. I've got about a 100 some odd page document here detailing more dynamic combat mechanics for spelljamming or just ships in general, including like Infernal War Machines from Distant and Avernus works for them too, as well as exploration, like a lot of stuff like if you're going, like if Wizard says you're going to drift to a stop after a while floating through space, let's break down what that movement speed is to go from 10,000 miles per round hurtling through space to a standstill, or using those same physics. If I miss an arrow that I shoot at you, how long is it going to fly for? If I'm 100,000 miles away in dead space and there is an auto-gnome that's just drifting with an axe waiting for a ship to come close enough to pick it up in its gravity well so that it can activate, wake up, and start attacking your ship because it thinks it's a war from 5,000 years ago, how likely are you going to see that auto-gnome just floating through space before you bump into it? Like, all that kind of crap is stuff that we have answers for inside this book using just basic 5e mechanics that already exist inside the player's handbook in DMG. We're just supplementing the rules to it. But the back end of it, of this document, is the Spelljammer's Adventures in Space that Wizards produced, came with an adventure called Light of Xaryxis. It's about a 65-page adventure. But at the back end of this, we have a 25-page conversion kit for how do you use all these ship and exploration mechanics that we've developed, so that if you play Light of Xaryxis, how does like the Nyogi hunt work, or how does the Scaver hunt work, or how does the Star Moth ambush work, or the Rhaegar attack, or the storm with the vampirates, or the Xaryxis Armada. These are different encounters that require you to be in a ship, that our new mechanics help you lean into fighting stuff on a ship so it's fun. So that back 25 pages is all of that conversion work for the adventure. So right now I'm producing tokens for the creatures and the characters that are inside a Light of Xaryxis, so that I can include all the tokens in a bundle with the book. So when the book is published on DMsGuild, if you can read the whole thing 100% for free. That's how I roll. Like, you can check in the description down below. There's a stack of books that I already published on the DMsGuild, and they're all free preview. But if you decided that you wanted to actually buy the book, then you would have all of these. You'll have all the creature tokens needed. We've also got like we did vessels, like all the different ships that are in the Spelljammer's Adventures in Space. We broke them down into their different sizes, and the mechanics of our book work with this scaling mechanic where you're either either working at a 500-foot scale, 50-foot scale, or 5-foot scale. And I was actually working on this before I started stream. Here, I'll show you real quick. But yeah, right now we're working on the NPC tokens that'll be included with it. But I want to. Here's the different scales of ship. At the 500-foot scale, vessels can fit inside of one square. At the 50-foot scale, like a hammerhead ship is 250 feet long. So the hammerhead ship fits in 5 squares, while this little flitter ship is only a fighter craft. It's 50 feet or smaller, and this is the biggest one that we have. So this fighter craft fits inside of a 50-foot square, but when you zoom into the 5-foot square, you can see that the hammerhead ship here is 250 feet long, which is 50 squares, but this little flitter next to it is only 10 by 10 space. So we can manipulate. So the map scaling that we have is here. I'll get this out of the way, and then we'll open up the other thing I was working on, which is not that. Go to ChessX. Yeah, all the things are missing. All right. Well, this is a ChessX map, like a ChessX brand. It's a vinyl map. It's a roll-up scroll map, and the biggest size that they have is a 34-inch by 48-inch map surface, which is what I use at my kitchen table if I'm not playing. I normally use Roll20, but if I'm at the kitchen table and I'm playing in person, I'll use my 34 by 48-inch ChessX. I also have a 24 by 36 and a 23 by 20. So I got a bunch of these vellum scrolls that you can use dry erase on and wipe them off. A lot of people that play D&D have those. So what we're doing here is we're breaking up that 34-inch by 48-inch map into 3 sections. 1, 2, and 3. You got the 500-foot scale here, where Star Moths can be defending like this asteroid community, right? So this squadron, kind of Galaxia style. The characters in Light of Xaryxis would have their own fleet that they assemble to attack this facility. And the way that's written by Wizards of the Coast is like you background that as a description while you focus just on your character landing here and then having a social encounter to convince people to stop fighting. But if we do it my way, then you can have an armada here that you have basically 1, 2, 3, 4 squadrons of ships that each character, like if you have 4 characters in your party, each of them can control one of the squadrons. So it basically becomes like 15 orcs versus your 4 characters scaling up to the 500-foot scale. But the mechanics otherwise is pretty much like if you were to have like goblins and orcs that were attacking you, if you're trying to charge an obstacle, like if you're trying to get to a destination, you'd have to fight your way through those creatures to get to where you wanted to get to. Except that these are now ships instead of creatures. But the mechanics are essentially the same. It just takes a lot of physics to break down the combat and spellcasting sections of the player's handbook and then rebuild them so they operate at a larger scale that curves smoothly from the 5, 50, 500, 1 mile, etc. scale. So this is a general map. This is a skirmish map where if you're like closing distance with another ship here, if you zoom in here to this 500-foot square, this is 10 squares across. So this is basically a 10 by a 1 by 3 block. So like if I had a creature, like if I had a ship here closing distance with this ship, then I'd be able to have them centered on this middle gap here at the 50-foot scale. And then if you were to zoom in, like if you wanted to board that ship, then this is a 5-foot scale where you'd be able to have, you know, your full craft here bumping noses with the other one. And we break up each ship into 10 block spaces. It's like if you're going to like hit along the side of a ship, you can take the front end of your ship and then put it next to the middle of the other ship, and that's where your boarding happens. But that would all be within a 10 by 20 inch space, because it'd be 10 squares by 20 squares, 10 by 10 next to 10 by 10. So anyway, we're still working on that. But what we're working on right now is the creatures, we're working on elves right now. And these are all the elves that control the ships that you would be fighting and that man these different turret stations and command centers on side of this citadel. And this is the illustration for the commander. And we're taking this from the Booze Menagerie out of the actual book from the Wizards of the Coast. I can't just take this token because it's not mine to use. So instead what I have to do is rebuild it in a different pose. Shoot that guy that way, he says. So that's what we're doing right now. And we just finished this token. I'm pretty happy with how it sits. We'll come back and we'll colorize this later. But I just want to, that's a crash course in what we're doing. I'm here 5 days a week in the mornings. I do a 2-hour stream in the morning while I'm drinking coffee before my day job. Mondays and Thursday nights I'm online, either working on these things specifically or working on an Eberron adventure that I'm doing cartography for. Tomorrow afternoon at lunchtime, I'll be diving into my martial powers supplement that converts martial classes into a mana resource class so that I can have color mana for Ravnica and other MTG settings alongside the spellcasting that I've already produced, which is in the color mana bundle down below. So that's the stuff. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's turning out pretty good. So far, so good, you know. Just to give you another peek, like here's a cover that we had produced of a Nautiloid engaging a Starmoth. And let's see, what's another fun piece that we had come up with recently? These are all different tokens and assets, stuff like that, but I don't think background fade, Citadel, range. Yeah, I'll go fetch. We'll go to interior images. You can check my playlist for the Spelljammer Combat and Exploration list that we've been accumulating. But let's see, chapter art. There we go. We produced this one, I think, around episode 30 of this playlist. So it's a bunch of astral knights riding on the back of armored scavers. So we have mechanics for if you wanted to tame scavers or any other creature and have them as astral mounts to fly through space and attack people with, like Githyanki style on the back of dragons. We have the mechanics for it, and this is one of the paintings that we came up with to kind of showcase that idea. So Yeah, I make art. If you check all the lists, the books down below, they're all 100% preview. There's like in the links down below, there's about 150 different like Magic the Gathering inspired D&D illustrations, as well as other stuff, but largely D&D stuff, Magic the Gathering stuff. I'm a big color mana enthusiast, so yeah, that's kind of how this hand is garbage, I need to fix it. This hand is garbage, I need to fix it. But I'm not going to bother hunting down a photo reference right now and sussing through that whole affair. It's just not the groove that I'm in right now. But this is a cleric that is the default pilot that they use for when they have Spelljammer, the elves, their star moths that they pilot. They default to using their clerics as their pilots. So I have comments about that, but I didn't decide to rock the boat. Haha, pardon the pun. I didn't want to rock the boat too much with this. They are just tokens, and the creatures aboard the star moths aren't particularly important overall on the large scale of things, like in the grand scheme of everything. But they are present, so I figured I'd just keep them. So I'm just going to do what I do, and I'm just going to start off with some spin doodling and see where it leads us. But I have ideas about this guy already. But this is how I pretty much start all my illustrations. I either start my illustrations with this gesture spin sort of thing, or I just do large blocks and then carve out the block. But for this particular, like if you check out the earlier in the stream, all the creature and ship tokens I produced, I started with a black silhouette, and then I dropped color on top of it, comic book style sort of. But with this, I'm starting off with this intuitive spin doodle method to basically produce just gestures in general, because I can't reproduce I can't just steal this art. That'd be wrong. So I have to come up with my own. So I find if I do this crazy slop gesture style of art, that I can create some interesting character poses. So that is what we're attempting to do right now. Live and direct, yo. Inspiration. Let the muse do her work. Yeah, I'm feeling that. Okay, cool. So because these guys because these guys are Spelljammer pilots, I have decided apparently to put this guy in a seat. So I'm gonna do this with his leg. It might end up being a chick, who knows? But yeah, if this is your first time stumbling about, coming into the channel, like, subscribe if you don't mind. Like I said, I do this typically about 8 times a week, Monday through Friday in the morning, about 6 a.m. Seattle time for a couple hours before my day job starts. And then we have the Monday and Thursday evening streams like we're doing right now. And then Saturday we do a Saturday morning stream as well later in the day, because I get to sleep in on Saturday. Sunday is my day of rest, so I take that day off, and then I come back and I attack it again. So I've been consistently streaming 6 days a week for, I guess, about 14 months now. It's just part of my life, basically. It's just what I do. I've got a shitload of assets that I'm producing. This is a 100-page book. The adventure, the Eberron adventure that is currently in edits right now, is also probably going to end up being 100 pages. And then the Martial Powers book, when it publishes, I'm feeling it's probably going to end up being around 50 pages. And all of that I'm hoping both the Spelljammer book and the Eberron book will be done. I'm hoping this one is going to be done in August, and the Eberron adventure done in December, and then we'll have a few months of the Martial Powers book, and at that point I'll probably like work on my spell point Warlock, or maybe I'll build out like the Neogi Death Squad, or maybe I'll do like Battle Mimics or Gundam, or there's a number of different things that I want to do now that we're getting down the pipe. But I also have the mass combat system to build out, and rebuild the Dragonlance campaign and the board game to use these mass combat system that we've developed over the past year that work really good using all of the language of like just using 5e mechanics. Super easy. It just takes a long time spelling out all the details, but it can absolutely be done. So we did it, and now when I build something, I like to have a proof of concept. And if I can use an adventure to prove like you can use these mechanics and they work well with this adventure, here, do this XYZ, then that's absolutely what I want to do. And so that's kind of what we're facing right now. I don't know, like what I've been stressing out over, I guess, if that's the right way of putting it, is what's going to happen with the new D&D and the DMsGuild, because currently I can publish on the DMsGuild, and you know it's published. There you go. But there's all. I'm going to move this guy over here. But they could decide to nuke their relationship with One Bookshelf and require anything D&D license related to be on their new website thing, and no one knows how, if that's what's going to happen, how that would work. So I could probably, if that's the case, I could probably just continue with the Dragonlance effort, because the adventure itself should still be legit for use with whatever D&D evolves into next, whether we like it or not. It's changing, so either got to get on board with where it's going, or you got to find another game. And so far, my pretty much everything that I build is like Wizards couldn't figure out how to do this or didn't want to bother, so I'm going to do it. And you know, so I don't think I don't think they're going to suddenly have some sort of crazy burst of creativity that's going to have them fleshing out all these ideas. So it's probably a safe space for me to continue to develop in. I just don't know where it's going to publish. So I'll be doing playtesting for the Dragonlance mass combat system eventually. Probably just build it out as a run-through campaign. It'll probably take 9 months to do it, but I can build assets and maps and stuff while I do it. So do that. So I got a lot of stuff in the pipe. I'm going to keep doing it until it's done. And when we run out of big things to do, then we start boring down into the smaller things. That feels right. This channel is a mix of me ranting about some random topic and then bursts of silence as I either focus in on whatever it is that I'm doing, or lose my train of thought, or get frustrated with something and have to anger my way out of it. Who knows, you know? But this is just kind of how the stream rolls. Stream says, same? Lol. Dope. Do you primarily do work on conversions, or do you work on some of your own creations, weapons, ships? The way that the words currently, like for the Spelljammer project, I'm mostly just rebuilding what exists, like what Wizards published as the baseline, you know, like as like the starting block. But like the fighter crafts isn't something that Wizards came up with. I had to create fighter crafts myself. But that's just a riff off of the Infernal War Machines from Descent into Avernus. We had created the mass combat system, and we being Joseph Vargas, Adam Hancock, and myself, we all published stuff on the DMsGuild of varying notoriety. But so we built out these mass combat rules. We play tested, maybe like had a dozen or so people play test them with me, DMing for them. They worked out really well. And then once, while we were building the mass combat rules, we were like, well, we need to be able to resolve siege machines. So we sussed out how siege machines worked, and we took inspiration from Descent into Avernus and built vehicle mechanics because of the scaling maps that we use, and Infernal War Machines basically being able to drive around 40 miles per hour as you know, rules as written. So we needed to build out the scaling system so that they'd be able to, you know, like have like a Mad Max scenario where you've got a convoy of these demon trucks going down, you know, the wasteland highways of Avernus, and you know, how would we play out combat like that? So we figured that out, and then they announced Spelljammer publishing in August last year. So that was like, well, I didn't know what we'd be seeing until we saw it, because I don't get advanced copies yet. Maybe that'll change in the future, but for now I don't. So I had to wait until it published like everyone else, and as soon as we saw it, the first 3 or 4 sessions of this Spelljammer stream was me basically buying the book and opening it up for the first time online, and then sussing through the mechanics, and then building our first large scale scenario. So using at the time what we had for the Descent into Avernus mechanics. So we immediately discovered that we could use fighter ship, like we could build Infernal War Machines into flying machines instead of driving, you know, cars. And that became the root of our fighter ships. And then we could just increase the scale 10, you know, by a magnitude of 10 to be able to do the same thing with the hammer ships and the Nautiloid and the Star Maws and stuff at the larger scales. But for the most part, start with take whatever mechanic we're doing and apply it to whatever it's for. And then once you have that thing built, then you can riff and start building iterative ideas off of it. Like the color mechanics, for instance. Initially, we went with just how does color mechanics work for spellcasting, like just the core mechanics of it. And then we built out like Knights and Tricksters, which was dive a little bit further into those mechanics, specifically for the Arcane Trickster and the Eldritch Knight. And then let's dive in further and go further with it with Spell Point Warlocks. And then so we just kept building on top of piece after piece. And then like after we got the initial like the color coding for like what color should all the different spells in D&D be, we had the basic idea of that, but then it evolved into, well, you know, it's realistic that you'd want to have like healing could be like white magic, but it could also easily be green magic. So like, what are all these fringe cases where it could be a number of different colors? And the answer was, well, let's just expand the color list. So we built the revised color mana spell list. That's part of the bundle down below. That shows like this spell could be this color, and this color. So we built out that coding for like how the color system works, so that as new spells get created or introduced in the game, we can easily codify what color a spell is supposed to be, so we could keep updating the document. And we've continued to update the document as we go. You know, new books come out, we go into the list and we add on the new stuff to it so it stays alive. And then we republish it. It's like, hey, here's new content on that. So like when we go back, like we're going to rebuild those core books, and we'll add Strixhaven, and we're going to add Theros to them, because when we built the book initially, there was only Ravnica. But now that there's the other planes that are available for us as settings, I can go back and add those as well. It's just this mass combat thing has been my major objective for the past year. So I haven't had an opportunity to go back and do that work of rebuilding the book to incorporate those different settings. But it's on the workbench. It's just further back in the row. So as a book comes off, the rest of my books slide forward, and the next one basically locks in the docket. And as I work on that one, that queues up 2 more books behind it that I can start casually poking at. And then as a book gets completed, that book that I was casually poking at slides up and becomes the major project. And then the other books slide in behind it, either going through like completing the writing and then now picking at the maps, or still working on the development end of it, like the actual meeting out of the text, like what's in the bulk of the actual mechanics of the book. And like I said, as we complete projects and they move up in the docket, then we invest more time working on whatever the next project is. So we have just like this production line, like a conveyor belt of ideation and artwork production going into these different ideas. And I try to mix up what kind of content I'm working from book to book, so that I don't get bogged down or burn out on a particular type of product at any given time. So while I'm doing this, the page layouts and interior art for this Spelljammer book, I'm doing cartography for the Eberron book. The Eberron book is still in the edit phase. So God's willing, by the time I'm done with the Spelljammer book, it'll get published, it'll drop off the docket, and then the Eberron adventure becomes front and center. It's where we focus, 6 or 7 streams out of 8 on that specifically, and then we do like 1 or 2 sessions a week on like the Martial Powers book is the next one that's on the docket. So that'll slide forward as like my stress relief. Like I focus all my energy on Spelljammer right now, but when I start to get frustrated with something as a stress relief, I'll switch gears and I'll do Eberron. So I'll just throw pixels at an Eberron map for a couple hours just to let my mind relax and get off, get over the complication, language fill. But yeah, so we have a production pipeline that we work through. It's not necessarily very popular content, the different pieces. Like the Eberron cartography is by far the most popular work that I do. I think it's just because so many people are starved for Eberron content. But people that actually do design work themselves like to hang out to look at like the page layout work that I do and stuff. So I walk through all that process and like where my complications are, and where are my victories in this? Like why did I just do X over Y, that kind of crap. And then of course while I'm painting and my brain zeroes out, because like when I'm doing artwork like this, I really don't have to think. The physicality of it's being controlled by the muse. And she lets me free up my mind to have a conversation about whatever it is that we're talking about right now, which is talking about what I talk about. So she's got a humor, but I have a very well developed relationship with my spirit of creativity, my muse, I call her, and. So we have a really good understanding that she gets to experience the joy of emotion and flesh incarnate, and she in exchange gives me pretty pictures. So it's a symbiotic relationship that allows me to just talk about stuff, and I've been DMing for about 30 years. So I've obviously got a thing or two to say about a number of things. It's just a matter of what's relevant at the time, and so blah blah blah. So the idea of converting D&D into DG style mana colors is really thank you. Hopefully you have a chance to look at the books. They could be better. and we have better, and there's better. Better is there. It's just I don't have the time to reformat it. But the core of it, like those basic rudimentary mechanics we have in those books, are pretty damn strong. And there's something that it's easy enough that people can riff off of it. Like if you want to build, like if you wanted to build a new Capenna setting, you could use the stuff that's in those books and start fleshing out your own mechanics for like Halo and stuff like that. So whatever. But you started using MTG for inspiration for homebrew classes. Nice. Do you ever convert from MTG D&D instead of vice versa? Actually, I have a couple streams where I have a Dimir Shadow Monk that I built out using the Way of the Shadow, but built it as a half caster. So it has a full list of a 50 spell list. I haven't published it yet, but I built it on stream. I also built an Azorius Strixhaven Strix class. It's a premonition investigator that could use either the Ranger base chassis or the Artificer base chassis. The subclass works for both of them, and basically it allows you to it's premonition stuff. Like you can see the future, like what Ravnica does. They have their Minority Report brigade of seers that can catch glimpses of the future, and they track down criminals that way. Very Minority Report, but super cool. So we built out a Ranger subclass that uses those mechanics, and we also built a Thopter pilot, what's the word? The Azorius and the Dimir use these little Thopter like spy bugs are what the Dimir use, and Azorius uses these Thopter flying artifact things. You might be familiar with this already, but they're basically just like constructs that they control. So we built out an Artificer / Ranger Thopter pilot subclass based off of stuff from Kaladesh and Ravnica, and built those out as subclasses. So like with the kits that you like the spell lists that you use, and all the optional powers that go into it. So yeah, I love doing that crap. Absolutely love it. That is one of the major themes for the Martial Powers project that I stream once a week. Is like instead of a Battle Master having like superiority dice, the Battle Master has mana. So if you have red and blue, like if you have red and white mana, then you could have your Battle Master be like a Boros soldier, and the different maneuvers that you could use. Instead of spending your superiority dice, you can assign different maneuvers and powers to different color mana. So if you want to be a Boros Reckoner, you can have like counter effects and like ally boost maneuvers, and just a bunch of stuff that you can spend mana on like a half caster, so that you're triggering all these instant aura and debuff effects, like counter effects, instant damage boosts, attack boosts, movement boosts, reaction boosts, ability check boosts. It's a whole thing. And that's in the Martial Powers playlist that I've got going on my channel. And I stream that once a week because it's still in the development phase. And right now we're translating the 4th edition monster philosophy of strikers, lurkers, controllers, soldiers, artillery, those different classes of monster. And we're converting them into the power system so that a DM can just drop a template onto a creature, and now your ogre can like hit everybody in a 5-foot area around it, and if he hits, everyone is knocked prone. And whenever something gets knocked prone, he can use his reaction to do a downtrodden stomp. It's like he does like an extra 2d8 damage as a reaction to whoever falls. Like these are all things that as a character you'd spend mana on ad hoc. Oh, you got knocked down, I'm going to spend a point of mana, now I'm going to do a reaction, and I'm going to hit him for an extra 2d6 damage. Kind of like a smite. Or oh, that guy's holding a staff. I'm going to empower my arrow. When I strike him, I'm going to get like an extra +6 on my die roll to knock that staff out of his hand, and I can determine where it lands. And then I have an aura that when I grab an item, I automatically attune to whatever I'm holding, but I have to maintain concentration to do that. So if you disrupt my concentration, the item doesn't work anymore. I have to blow mana again to make it work again. So that kind of crap. So like that's like super useful for a rogue, for instance. A rogue might want to pick that kind of stuff up. So, but once we have the Martial Powers book out, I can take any card from any set, and if it's a creature, it's like, like Sheldrith, for example. I could create a Sheldrith boss fight out of black mana, giving her a mix of spells and powers that I can pull into a kit, into a Sheldrith kit. And then we can decide what is draw card, take damage, discard, take damage. Like, what are the mechanics behind that? We can build those out as special bonus actions or reactions that Sheldrith would be able to use as a boss if you wanted to have your characters fight her. So that's the kind of stuff. But I want to make sure all the books are there and all the mechanics are in place so I can reference where these things are coming from. So if that's shit that excites you, I can grab this book and I can pull X, Y, and Z out of it and do my own thing with it. And maybe some other day I'll come back and maybe D, E, and F will be cool too. So but that's why I make everything 100% free to read, so I can build something and then reference the page that it's on, and then it can go into the free things like, oh yeah, that's where it is. That's what those mechanics are. I'm set. I know what we're doing now. And then you can just take it and run with it. And at some point, if you reference the thing often enough, it's like, well, I may as well buy it. And then I get a sale. So cheers. They're almost gold. Gold is 500 sales. Most of my mana books are like within 50 sales of being a gold bestseller, which is, I think like maybe 1 out of 17 books get to that level. So I'm getting into those books themselves are getting me into a notable. I'm earning reputation off of those books, renown, as it were. I'm gaining renown as a result of those mechanics because they're pretty unique. I haven't seen anyone else even attempt anything close to it, and I looked for quite a while before firing up the project myself, because if somebody already did it and they did it better than I can, then why would I bother? I just riff off of it, but I hadn't seen anything yet. So as far as I know, it's pretty unique. But there's a lot of people out there. I'm probably not the only person who thought of it. I might be the only person that has the development experience, the artistic experience, and the time and resources and the diligence to actually accomplish it. Like, there's a lot of people that have ideas that are similar to mine, but most of those people mention it on Reddit and never think about it again. Like, when I have an idea, I hold on to it and I cook it. And then I think through all the shit, like, why would this not work? Where does this thing break inside of the game? And then start figuring out, well, what do we need to do to make this thing work so it stays consistent throughout the book? And once we go through all the mechanics that exist inside of the game and it still works, it's like, well, shit, I may as well publish this thing. Then I'll hire an editor to help me make sure the word's smart, and then it's an excuse for me to make artwork. So this is me having the excuse of making spaceship artwork right now. But the bigger purpose, like, there's like my own Eberron, like Eberron is my home. So that's where my own home campaign is at and has been since 3rd edition. But I play a space opera campaign. So like I have like Carnathi fleets and Droam fleets and Aundare fleets. And so I want to finish the Spelljammer book so then I can release a Eberron and space book. So, using all the crap that's been going on in my campaigns for the past X years, I can start dumping those into hey, you could, you like Eberron, if you like Spelljammer, consider this. And my home table is 18th level right now, but when we finish our current time travel campaign, we're going to be starting a Spelljammer campaign where they're playing dwarves and warforged that are mining crystal asteroids that hang in orbit. The Tears of Sybaris. It's just an asteroid belt that floats around the planet like a shattered crystal moon. And so the campaign will be about raiding those asteroids, clearing them of monsters, putting a mining crew into it, extracting those resources, finding merchants to buy off the ore that we're producing, and then funnel that back in as resources to buy either better combat crews, more ships, better mining equipment, or to expand our mercantile power base so that we have broader and wider distribution. And then, enter conflicts and pirates and crap like that. So, but that'll be an opportunity for me to test the asteroid hex crawl mechanics, so that we can eventually publish that as a little standalone expansion idea of these Spelljammer mechanics that we're working on. It's like, hey, you think Spelljammer is cool? Like Eberron? Here, play the Morrowind Asteroid Belt hex crawl campaign. Here you go. So that's like 2 years from now, assuming that we're still able to publish stuff and that WotC doesn't nuke everything and scorch earth stuff. But if they do, I'll just have to publish it on Patreon, because I don't even know what else the hell am I gonna do. So it's just a matter of where do I publish this stuff. And eventually I'll get into Kickstarters, and if I build enough of a following base that thinks my ideas are cool, then I'll eventually be able to successfully kickstart projects and basically just do this again, except I'll get paid before I do it instead of after. So if you were a patron of my Kickstarter, we'd be having a conversation about, should this be a guy or a girl, or if you're one of the people that purchased the art director package, then we'll give you X amount of pages that I can do your characters. If you have character illustrations that you want, I can feed those character illustrations into the page art that I do, and then there you go. Here's a character illustration that you got because you spent $100 on me, But if I do another 200 hours of content production like this, I'll be able to show you ad nauseum. It's I can get these things done. If you want to invest in me, I will produce. Here's 3 books that I made with that process right now. If you want to watch the 200 hours of content that I produced in making those books, go for it. So it all feeds into itself, The Mere Shadow Monk sounds like, yeah, Shadow Monks are fucking cool, dude. Let's see. I currently have one from my players. Right. Yeah, you should check that out because it's really fucking cool mechanics. Really fucking cool mechanics. A Warforged is a secret Gadaxian. Cool. I have to take a look at your book. Yeah, sure. Anytime you want, man. Martials, yeah, they do. And this thing that we come up with, these martial powers are a cool fix. They aren't necessarily everyone's cup of tea, because not everyone likes mana as a resource, because not everyone is me. So God bless the differences. But for people that are into that shit, it's a really great solution. So we'll be back on that tomorrow. It's 8:50 now. Holy crap, I'm almost out of time for the night. But we'll be back in about 15 hours to do the martial power stream. And we'll be back in about 9 hours to do more asset production like this tomorrow morning. So it'll be part of our morning coffee, the morning coffee stream, as I had been calling it, but now I realize that it sounds like like you gotta pee. So I'm trying to find a better name for that. Here's one of those fits of silence. Alf equals skinny, so I need to slim this down. I actually need to slim this whole thing down. There. Perfect. Flawless. Yeah, right on, man. Take your time. Like I said, you can read it for free. If you value it, you want to buy it eventually, I certainly appreciate the support. But I grew up at the bookstore being able to read books before I bought them, and management was cool with it. They knew at the end of the month I'd bring in my I'd bring in my lawnmower money and buy another D&D book. So they were totally cool with me hanging out and just don't make a mess. Keep your Coke on a coaster and go ahead and grab a seat in the back and give them a read. So that was my first experience with the marketplace in D&D was clerks at a bookstore being super cool with me just geeking out on D&D books because I didn't cause trouble and I was courteous to people. So it's just, the economy's only going to get worse in the next few years. Me offering you something that you can take a look at and you pay me back when you can. That's just me paying it forward. And this is drooping down way too low. This should only be going down to about here. Yeah, like that. I remember buying Oriental Adventures and the Dungeoneer's Survival Guide from 2nd edition for $12 a pop. Those were 128-page books, 128 hardcover books, and $12. Ridiculous point. It was. I got $5. I got paid $5 a lawn, and I could generally get one in my neighborhood. I could generally get one done a weekend. Because I live in a horse community, so we all had ridiculously large lawns that didn't necessarily get grazed evenly by horses. So there was always a need for a trimmer to come by. So I could get paid a few bucks to do that when I was 12. And at the end of 3 weeks, I could afford another book. $15, $12 plus some tax. I had a couple bucks left over to play some video games, and then I could head home and start building more D&D stuff. That's my legacy. So that was back in I started playing D&D back in 1987. A couple years before Spelljammer came out. By the time Spelljammer and Planescape came out, I was so addicted to playing D&D that my grades in school basically turned to shit. Long story short, I'm a marketing director now for an ad agency. I crunch math for a living, big surprise. And I do things like look at the big picture and how to correlate data and how to connect the dots between what's going on in the world around us versus what's going on in our advertising budget right now. So I don't have an MBA. I was just in sales long enough for me to be able to start looking at the big picture and having smart questions. And if you ask enough smart questions and offer enough answers as like potential reasons, like solutions to those questions, then companies tend to give you more tools so that you can ask more questions and come up with more answers. So I don't know if that's how the world works anymore now, but it's how it's worked for me for the past 40 some odd years. So, but you got to be stubborn, and you got to be willing to take the loss, and you got to be able to look at things from management's perspective. If you're in the corporate world, you got to be able to see it from the manager's perspective and what their goals are, so that you can feed what work you're doing into what their objectives are, so that they can rely on you more, because what you want a corporation to do is rely on you for helping them make more money. And if you can demonstrate that you are continuing upping the game on profits for what a company can produce, then that creates longevity. At least that's what I've found. But you also have to kind of make your own opportunities, and they exist, but you gotta know what your work. You gotta stick around long enough so you can see how the game gets played at the place that you planted your flag in, and figure out if it's worth it to you to be there, or otherwise you need to bounce to find some place you're willing to fight for. Because once you find something worth fighting for, heaven and earth will move to help make sure you can achieve your goals. Because they aren't your goals anymore. It's what you're inspired to do, and that's the muse. And that's when she gets to step into the plate and experience being alive through you for a little while. And then they give you all the goodies, all the really cool stuff that they want to experience. That just becomes a miracle of being alive. But that's just me having multiple near-death experiences and having a very peculiar relationship with reality. So, your knowledge may vary. No guarantees. Yeah, this is off-center. Perspective. Free transform. Yeah, better. Yes, she works with magic. Hey, Colin. Welcome to the mix, my man. Thanks for the compliment. We do art here. We do all sorts of shit here. I'd buy it. Yeah, man. Everyone's fucking cool. Marshall Cox says, I started converting 2E stuff into 5E PF2. Right on. I really love the older modules for the drop-in side quests for my campaigns. Wish I had those old books for $12. Yeah, no kidding. That shit was a try. I mean, you can pick them up as PDF now for like $6 or something like that off of 1BS. So one bookshelf. I think that's what they cost. I mean, it's not the same as having the old hardbound. But the PDF still, the ideas are just as good, you know, no matter what format they're being provided to you, and they still work. But yeah, I run through a 1 to 20 level campaign in about 250 hours, and if I do a 3.5 hour ish session each week, I can typically get through a full campaign in about 15 months. But for the Eberron asteroid mining operation campaign, I think what we're going to do is work on the organization level more than the individual character level. So I'm going to give them a batch of 6th level characters, and they can choose a roster of different types of characters to represent them. And as they can choose each, like I give them a list of asteroids, like which one do you want to attack, or like which one do you want to prospect, and then they'll be able to ask me questions and do ability checks and do like surveys to find out what kind of mineral is in there and what's the likelihood of aberrations and different monsters being in the asteroids that they're going to have to contend with, so they can do risk assessment. And then I'll be able to have a random table of just like odd shit, like, you know, like Gonzo style, like what is this strange obelisk that we found in there, and like I won't know because it'll be something random, but it will become part of the adventure because they found it. And then we'll basically like quote unquote hex crawl it, first edition style, into just building a random campaign. And after we run it for X months and we decide, you know, what's good and what's bad, I'll then be able to build it into a toolkit that I can then publish on the DMsGuild. Here's the different tables that we rolled. Here's the different types of creatures that were prominent when we did it. Here's some of the sample dungeons that we had ran through. Here's the ships that we used. Here's the pirates. I'm thinking like there'll be Redra, Sarlona crystal ships that are trying to protect the crystals from being mined because of their psionic relationship and their otherworldly origins, that they might get pissed off that we're trying to harvest these asteroids for profit instead of enlightenment. Like every time an asteroid gets destroyed, they get a little dumber. So they're going to get really pissed really quickly that we're doing this. And I think that'll be a really fun theme behind the campaign. Like, oh, now that we know that they get dumber for this, do we hate them and we actively want them to get dumber? Because Sarlona is a big threat to the planet. Or we're like, oh, well, we don't want to do this to these people, so why don't we like come up with another solution or whatever. It'll be all up to them. But I'm thinking space pirates like a Dargoon, having a bunch of mammoth and scorpion ships as their fleet. That's what they have in like the greenskins. The Dargoon in my campaign have like the mammoth and the goblin arrows and the orc scorpion ship, all that stuff. I just gave those all to Dargoon because they felt kind of Klingon-ish, and the Dargoon feel kind of like Klingons to me. So let's put them into iron battleships. That I think that resonates with them. And then they all have like fire priests as their pilots, so they can use heat metal on their own ship if they wanted to, and turn themselves into a fiery ball of death if they need to do a suicide run. That's fun. That's fun. So that, yeah, we'll do that, and then we'll eventually build it out into something on the DMsGuild. And like I want to do a Theros in space like kind of like Ulysses 3031. There was an old cartoon from like, I think it was like 1991. It was called Ulysses 3031. It was basically Greek legends in space, and that just curves perfectly in with Theros being a Spelljammer campaign. Too easy. Like I could probably build that out in 4 months if it was my primary project, but it won't be probably for another 3 years. But I'll get to it eventually, and I already know how to do god auras. So you'll see now that we have these scaling mechanics. Once we get into Theros, you'll be able to summon like Nissa as a 500-foot spirit entity that creates these different auras of control and buffs creatures and ships that are within its area of effect. Stuff like that. Cool shit. Super, super cool shit. Like I said, I want to get all the core mechanics out so that it's a foundation that people can understand, so they know where these iterations are coming from, like these campaign toolkits. Like, what is that about? It's like, well, if you take this, like if you take some peanut butter and you take some chocolate, here's the Reese's Pieces campaign. You know, that's kind of what we're trying to build. Like color mana plus Spelljammer equals adventures in Nyx. Or like the Kaladesh Initiative or something. This song reminds me of Rush 2112, and I keep meaning to listen to that album, but I keep getting distracted by Grimes and Hannah. Damn it, those girls can sing. Them and Fantagram have been a really big kick of mine lately. I know they're a couple of years aging out, but the music's still damn good, and you know, you discover it when you discover it. But I've just about fully digested Tool's Fear Inoculum. That is an amazing album. That Tool makes my angels cry. They are so enraptured by the messages that they produce. I suspect I'm over time, but fuck it. Whatever. I'm here. I'm doing this. I'm technically procrastinating. I'm supposed to be figuring out those scaling mechanics. They've been frustrating for me for the past week, honestly. I had initially written them, but as I started doing the diagrams and illustrations for them, they felt way too trite. Like it's such a scaling maps from 5 feet to 50 feet to 500 feet to a mile. It's so core to these variant mechanics that we've come up for exploring and fighting in space that I really, really need to make sure I'm just absolutely nailing it. Like, absolutely making it make sense. Thoroughly, but not overly explaining, you know? So keeping it simple but thorough is difficult. It's difficult. That's why we get paid the big bucks. But I'll figure it out. But I can tell right now I am completely procrastinating because I don't want to have to deal with it, and I'm enjoying the artwork too much. But we'll get to it. Procrastination is not dereliction of duty. It's reality saying you're not ready to take this on yet. You should really lay down a little bit and give yourself some rest so that we can brew up the solution that you need. That's what my muse tells me. And she has yet to lie to me. So I take her word for it. So when you're procrastinating, it's not that you're a bad person or you should be doing better. It's that you are incapable of performing the task right now and you don't know how to let yourself off the hook. Procrastination feels like guilt. And that guilt comes from us feeling we have responsibilities that we haven't actually been tasked with. Like, you may have a homework assignment that you're supposed to get done, and you know it's supposed to be done on Tuesday. But for the life of you, you can't do it. It's Sunday, and for the life of you, you just can't fucking do it. It's not because you're a bad person and you've got a shitty work ethic. It's that your energies aren't aligned for you to be able to creatively express what's needed within whatever that project is. And you would end up just wasting your time getting frustrated with it, making no better progress than you already are at right now. The actual solution to procrastination is mercy. And honestly, a good nap. If you feel like you're procrastinating, getting sleep is one of the best things you could possibly do. Luckily for me as an artist, when the muse takes over on the machinery, it's almost like I'm sleeping. It's almost as regenerative. So when she's burning bright through me, I can get by on 5 or 6 hours of sleep a night. When I'm not in a creative process, I need a good 7. So she helps curb the amount of sleep that I need, but I have to surrender control and I have to follow my instincts like without error. You know, like, this is the task I have to perform right now. Like, as soon as I get a cue, as soon as I get pinged, I have to act on whatever that ping is to make sure that I stay inside the moment. The longer I can stay inside the moment, the less, the more timeless the information that flows from that moment becomes. If that makes any sense. Yeah, that's coming along. Yeah, everyone needs to listen to more Rush, man. Jumping between this stream and studying, glad I'm here. I don't know what I'm going to say when I'm going to say it. I just trust that the muse has me say things because someone, somewhere, at some point is going to listen to my stream and it is going to make sense to them. And apparently you're that guy right now. So thanks for being here. That's awesome. I'm really glad. I'm really glad this is helping you. It just, at any degree for your life. The secret mission behind me doing this is exactly that. Because the muse knows who's going to be here, and she knows when they're going to be here, and she knows what they need to hear. And it starts small, but it grows. I find myself leaving my desk at work when I'm downtown. The muse, the last time this happened, this is a great story. I'll tell you about it, and then we'll probably go for the night. But I was sitting there and I was grinding out some phone calls to politicians because it was election season and they all have money to throw away. So I'm sitting there pounding the phone, looking for some dollars, And the muse says, "Get up and leave." And I'm like, "What? Right now?" It's like, "Yeah, go. Just get out." And so I don't question it. So I go, and so I go down. I go out onto the street, and she says, "Turn right, go down to the end of the block, and wait." So I do. So I go down to the end of the block. This is downtown Seattle. If you know Seattle, ping me, and I can give you the specifics about where it's at. It's at a Whole Foods downtown off of Denny. But so I go down. I go down to the edge of the street, and I'm at the corner, and I'm hanging out for a moment. And I'm like, at least I'm getting away from my desk, and I'm getting some airtime. You know, like even if it was just you need to take a break, and we want you to take the break right here, that's sufficient. But on this particular day, I'm sitting there, and within a couple minutes of hanging out, this gal in a robe, like in a bathrobe, and a hair towel, walks up to me, and she's like this tiny little Japanese gal, and she says, can I talk to you for a second? I'm like, sure, this is why I'm here, and obviously. So she says, I've been at Harborview in Seattle, the Harborview Hospital, for the past 7 months because I had a brain tumor. And my doctor told me that I'm cured and I can go home now. And I live in Hawaii, but my husband's not available, and I needed to get out on the street. So, and then, can I hug you? Yes, absolutely. So that was a horrible. I told that story horrible, and I'm sure I could have done a better job. But Babs needed somebody to be there, and the universe chose me to be there, and I was fortunate enough to hear the call and obey the demand, and I got to be a part of her processing that she's not going to die. And that was amazing. So it was, I do everything I can to try to listen to that whisper, and because I know it wants to guide me to miracles, and it wants as many people to be a part of that reality as possible. And if it can use me as a means of just saying something random to somebody, or doing something completely random that puts them in more alignment with believing in themselves, so that they can hear that voice inside of themselves more easily, that means we get another muse on deck, and we get to fight this thing together. So I'm going to go ahead and call it quits for the night, and I'm going to be back in about 9 hours. And we're going to continue with this character here. I like how it's coming along. I don't have any information about waist down from this photo, so I get to make that up for myself, which is fun. Do that. And go here. It's raining really well now in Seattle. I love the rain. It's beautiful. I'm supposed to be quitting, but I'm still picking at it. Can't have a well-timed exit if you don't leave. Yeah, man. Yeah, like, subscribe, catch me another time. I stream a lot, so drop a signal, say hey, and yeah, I'm going to go ahead and cut it here. So I'll be back in the morning. We'll probably finish this sketch and start the next one. After this one, the last one we have is Zadalia, the princess of Xaryxis, and once we finish her, we start working on Yogi. We got Yogi captain, slavers, captured humanoid slaves, Umber Hulk, and captains of the patrol galleons that you can team up with to hunt down the Nyogi after you escape them. So we'll work on that one next, and then we'll get into Topola's Tower and the Rieger and the second wind crew. So we'll keep punching through there. This is about another 20 characters I think that we need total. So we'll black and white all of them first, and then we'll come back through and we'll color them all. So by the end of the month, that should be done. And God's willing, by that point, we'll resolve the technical issues we're having inside of the book production, and we'll be back to doing just color page art and diagrams and stuff and blah, 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 and we'll get it done. So anyway, I'm out of here. Thanks a lot. Love streaming with you guys. Been a great night, and looking forward to more.